Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Bitch, I'm back. I'm popular the man.
3, 2, 1. Cool, let's try that again. Hey guys, my name is Akeem. Feel free to call me Kimmy, and welcome to my quarter life crisis. So today I wanted to take you guys through some of the decisions that I had to make, whether or not I stay at my old job or leave, which I eventually did, and talk about career exploration, and also share a really cool resource that I found along the way that not only could have helped me in the past, but will help me in the future in figuring out what a career looks like for me and how it may be able to help you as well. So first I wanted to start and give you guys kind of a background about me and my academics and where I've been before I talk about the future. So I graduated from the University of Virginia back in 2015. That's where I'm at now. Figured it was a great place to come back to the business school where I studied to do this video. And I had concentrations in marketing and management with a focus in advertising and digital media. And so all of kind of my undergrad experience surrounded consumers and communications and marketing. But when I was going through the recruitment process, I wanted to see what else was out there. I wanted to see what other opportunities were available to me. And I also knew that I wanted a career where I could move around a lot, whether that was physical or in the type of job that I did. So I ended up going through the consulting recruiting process and landed at a job with a large consulting firm down in Atlanta is where I was headed, and moved there with all the excitement in the world. Atlanta is such a cool, amazing place, and I'm so excited to be there very soon and spend some time there with old friends on my old stopping ground. So there's a little plug for Atlanta. But I was working at a very large firm and had so many different experiences working on things from finance transformations to human resource reorganizations in a myriad of different industries, from healthcare to consumer products. Just so many wonderful opportunities and so many places that I was able to travel to, not only in the country but also being able to work abroad in London was an amazing experience. So could not speak highly enough of the amazing opportunities that a consulting job at a big firm can provide for you. But obviously I'm not there now, and that's not where I've most recently been. Near the end of my time there, I started to realize that I wanted something a little different. The type of work that I was doing and the environment that I was in didn't really fit my value set. And that's not a knock on anyone who I've worked with or the experiences that I've had. I think what you'll learn at the end of this video is that finding the right job for you doesn't mean that just because something's not a good fit, that it's not a good business or a good opportunity for someone else. And so for me, I realized that it wasn't a great fit, and that's when I started to pursue other opportunities. I have always been outside of DC, and with the political climate being what it was last summer, I realized that it might be a great time to get into political communications, which has always been something that I had interest in. And so I moved up to DC and took a job at a public relations consultancy or agency because I wanted to work alongside that political arena. And so the firm I was at had public sector clients, but I also wanted to bring some of my business experience and get more of that communication experience before I went maybe to the Hill or to work for an agency. And so, and it turns out, as the election ended differently than most people expected, it's a whole nother video topic for another day, it was a great move to work in a business environment versus working for a campaign. And so was working in DC and working at a very small firm compared to where I was at. It was less than 20 people across 2 offices on each coast. So vastly different from the very large firm that I left. But with that came different pros and different cons. And having had both of those experiences, I'm really glad that I can see what I do and don't like about those different environments. But they had some commonalities as well. And during the end of my time there, I again started to realize that it wasn't a right fit for me. It just, something was off. And that's not a knock on the people of the firm, but that was there wasn't a congruence of values for what I wanted out of my next job. And so I decided to leave, and probably another video I could do about the decision between leaving for another job versus just leaving for the sabbatical. But all in all, decided to take some time to really figure out what I want in my life and where I want to be and what I want to be doing. And so leaving those two jobs was difficult. I think leaving any kind of relationship, or I hate to say the word contract, it's difficult. And it's not an easy decision to say, I want to move my life, or I want to move careers, or move networks. But I wanted to give you guys some of the reasons why that was right for me, and also, again, talk about this resource. And so wrote some notes, obviously want to make sure that I capture everything. But when you're 24 years old, I think it's very easy for you to feel like you don't know anything. And people not hesitate to tell you that. They will tell you that you're too young to really know an industry fully. They will tell you that you have to stay in a certain role or position for a certain amount of time before you really can understand it. And there's some truth to that. But I think just like any relationship, you know if it's working in the early stages or if it's not. I don't think that anyone who tells their best friend, I don't really see this relationship with this other guy or girl, or insert gender here, going somewhere in the future, I don't think the advice they get is, oh, well, you should date them for 6 months to a year and maybe it'll work out, or you'll really learn about them. Like, no, they'd say, go find someone else and don't waste your time. And so I don't know why we don't have that same lens when it comes to the workforce, because we're often told that you don't know enough, and so you have to stay in a role until you figure it out. But I reject that, because I think if something's working and if there's a right fit. And I think that we need to be given more advice about being courageous and exploring that fit. And if it doesn't work or it's not fitting, what are the next steps? How do you either work to make it fit or find something new? And so I first wanted to just say that, you know you better than anyone else. You know what you deserve in a career and what you can offer to a career or a job. And so I think it's very important for yourself to be honest and really ask yourself, if you're in a situation about whether or not you should stay or go, I think if you get to that point, you probably know the answer. Sure, any given day you might have a rough day and you might say, oh, I hate this job, or I never want to work here, or I hate my team, or whatever. You might have those feelings. But I think it's really important when you get to a question of should I stay or should I go, and it's a trend, you probably know the answer already, and you should probably think honestly about your role in that organization or that project team and really figure out if there's a values fit. And so that's what I want to focus on today, is talking about that values fit and how that may or may not look for you. And the reason I want to focus on values is because there's a lot of surface level reasons to leave a job. I wrote some of mine down that I've had in the past with either the careers I've already talked about or previous jobs before that. But, I wasn't happy. I wasn't challenged. I needed more. I could offer more. I wasn't my passion. I didn't really like the outlook for the next few years. In my opinion, those are all kind of surface level reasons, but they don't really get down to the core reason of why you're not happy at your job. And that's what I needed to figure out. And that's what I'm continuing to figure out as time goes on, is why I haven't been happy in the roles that I found myself in. And, coming back to my alma mater and talking to old professors, I still keep in touch and have kept in touch with some of my greatest professors, whether it's email or text or Facebook. And I'm so glad that I did, because they have so much advice to give and just a wealth of knowledge to give you that whether it's a professor or an old mentor or a parent, please, you definitely should keep in touch with people who are older than you and who've had more experiences than you. I never want to come off as saying that an older generation doesn't understand us and that they can't give us valuable advice. But I do think that their advice should come with a caveat, as anyone's advice should. And so if any of those questions have ever come through your mind, you're not happy, you think you can offer more, you don't know if this is your passion, that's when you really should start to think about is this a good fit? And so I wanted to talk about what that fit could look like and share this resource that I have found so helpful. So coming back and talking to my professors, one of them who teaches organizational behavior mentioned the Schwartz values inventory, which I don't want to butcher it or try to act like I know more about psychology or more about this than I do, even though I did almost minor in psychology. But it's basically an inventory or a survey of different questions that get at what you value. And so I wanted to share some of those questions. And if you guys are interested in this resource, please comment or tweet me, and I can help connect you to, the appropriate resources. But what it does is it asks you to assess a statement that describes someone else. And there might be other iterations of this, but it asks you basically to rank 1, which is not like me at all, to 6, very much like me, and on a myriad of questions ranging from having a good time is important to him. So you can use any gender pronoun, but it asks you to rate the statement based on a third party so that you're a little bit more honest with yourself. And so, questions like, he strongly believes that he should care for nature, or he believes he should always do what people in authority say. His personal security is extremely important to him. He wants to the state to be strong so it can defend its citizens. Obeying all the laws is important to him. He takes advantage of every opportunity to have fun. It is important to him to be satisfied with what he has and not ask for more. He wants those he spends time with to be able to rely on him completely. So there's a bunch of questions that you ask yourself and rate 1 to 6, and then you score it. And the way the scoring works is that there's this list of values that 3 questions relate to 1 value, and so you get a score from 1 to 6, 6 being very strong on that value and 1 being not so strong. And so some of the values include humility, tradition, face, which is basically impression management, stimulation, hedonism, achievement. So there's a whole range of these values, and what that does then is it gives you some insight into who you are and what you value in this world, for lack of a better way to put it. And so I wanted to, without going too in depth to my own results, share just a little example of how this has already helped me and how it could help you, and also just give you guys some encouragement to really do this or some other example or activity of finding what you value to make sure that you're in a great role for you. And so one of the things that the results showed for me is that I don't fit well with environments where you have to wait your turn or there's a pre-programmed track to follow. It's unlikely to lead to happiness for me. So there's something like a disclaimer or a caveat to say with all of these examples or values if you take this inventory. There is no wrong or right answer, and there's no wrong or right value to have or level of that value to have. And so, for instance, when it comes to humility, if you get a lower or higher score, that does not mean that you are a bad person. It just means that that value to you is either lower or higher. And whether or not that's the same for someone else doesn't matter. I think one of the most important things with these kinds of inventories or surveys is that you don't compare yourself to other people, because that's not going to help you find the career for you. So it doesn't matter if the majority of your friend group takes this or your office takes this and they find that 70% were high on this and you're not. That doesn't give you as much information as you're high on this or you're not high on this, and what environments have you put yourself in, and are those environments high on this or not? Does that make sense? And so when you're looking for different roles, if for instance you were to take this at a small firm or even a large firm and you knew that 80% of people highly value this, just because you don't value that doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you might not fit well in that environment if that's something that the firm or organization does. And so for me, waiting your turn in that pre-programmed track wasn't something that would lead to happiness. What that meant was that I need to look for roles where it's not so traditional. I'm a nonconformist. And again, there's nothing wrong with conformity. But one of the examples was when you walk into a room, if everyone's doing one thing a certain way, do you A, follow that certain way, or do you B, look for other ways to do it, maybe better, or etc.? I'm definitely a B. I'm definitely a nonconformist in the sense that I can acknowledge tradition and I can acknowledge that some things work in the past. I acknowledge that efficiency is very important for some jobs and industries and that certain ways of doing things lead to greater efficiency. But I also love to ideate and think of better ways to do things and be more efficient and more creative. And it's never enough for me to just hear, oh, well, that's how we've always done it. And so there's nothing wrong with being either or. There's nothing wrong with being a conformist or a nonconformist. But what's important is that you realize the environments you put yourself into and whether or not they value conformity or nonconformity. And so for me, what that looks like is not finding roles in maybe large firms that have that pre-programmed track where you're doing something for a certain amount of years and then another certain amount of years, and everyone's kind of doing that same track, and there's not a lot of individuality in the roles. Or even at a small firm, you might find that you can't do something above a certain level because you're not at that level, or because you don't have a certain skill set that was developed there, and so maybe they don't think that you can provide certain value, for lack of a better term, at that point in your career. I think very often as young millennials especially, we're told that we can't do something or we don't have enough experience to do something. For some people, they take that as, yes, you're right, I agree, I'm going to pay my dues and spend time working at those skills so that I can get to the level where I can do the thing I'm looking to do. But for me, that never really worked for me. I never really found the idea of paying my dues something that I should have to do, in the sense that I think you can gain experience, and with more experience comes greater abilities to contribute and add value. But I also will acknowledge that some of the best innovators and creators can do so in environments where there's not that tradition, there's not that set standard or role that you have to complete before moving to the next level. That some of the greatest contributions to society and business have often come from young people and people who didn't just wait to pay their dues, who knew they could provide more value, or knew they had an idea, or knew they could contribute more than their environment would allow them to, so they found a different environment. And that's definitely the boat that I find myself in. And that's not to say that I'm this great person, I'm the next Oprah or Steve Jobs or Barack Obama or anything, but that's to say that I value environments where I'm allowed to push the bounds and really explore what's out there and explore how I can add more value and create more and come up with the best and brightest ideas, versus some people might like to be in a role where they know exactly what they're doing day to day and it doesn't change, and they love that. They love the structure. They love the tradition. And like I said, nothing is wrong with either approach. But for me, I realized which approach I identify more with. And I wish I had known that more going through my business search, because both opportunities that I've had in the past were more of that traditional conformist value set, where you have a certain role for a certain amount of time and then you can move up. But there wasn't that much flexibility. There wasn't that much ability to bypass that waiting your turn. And so just knowing that, when I heard that, I just thought, oh my God, like, yes, that is so true. I wish I'd known that before. And so that's just one example of how something like this values inventory can be so helpful for you finding out what career is going to make you, or what are you passionate about? What career is going to make you so happy that you want to wake up every day and do it over and over again? And so there's so many other examples that I could give, and so many other values that I, realized that I had that maybe I didn't or wasn't able to put a name to it. But I think, one thing that's really important for everyone to realize is that people and the values that they have evolve over time, but they don't necessarily change. And so I wouldn't want you to think that just because you take this or have taken this, that you have to do it again, or just because you might be in a different time of your life, that the things you used to value aren't the same. I'd argue that the context and the environment changes, but the people and what they value doesn't, if that makes any sense. And so if you valued something when you were younger, you probably still value it. Maybe the context has changed, and so you value it maybe at a 5 instead of a 6, or you value something more than that thing that you used to value. But it's really important that people realize with themselves, and something I'm starting to realize even more, is that the things that you value will last you your whole life. And so it's really important to find a career for you now that you can see yourself doing in the years to come. Don't get caught up in this idea that just because you're a millennial or in this new environment, you're going to be changing jobs so often that it doesn't matter what you do now. Or, your job is going to suck now because you're younger, but it'll get better later on. You have the power to find yourself a job that is going to make you happy now. And if you're not the kind of person that wants to pay their dues or wait a certain amount of time before they can be happy, then you should find what makes you happy. And if you are the person that is okay with doing that, that's perfectly fine too. And I hope you still stay tuned to this channel and find ways to make your career even better. But I think there's something to be said about, don't let people give the advice that you have to have a shitty 20s to be happy later on in life. there are so many great opportunities, and I'm so excited to find my opportunity that fits for me now. And that's what I'm here to try to help myself and you find that opportunity. And so I hope that was helpful today to kind of share that values inventory resource, and also give you guys some insight into my background and what I'm looking for. So if you guys have ideas for me, I would love to hear them. But I just think this was so great and so informative for me that I cannot wait to dive more into my results and just explore what opportunities are going to be the best fit for me. And I hope that, along this quarter life crisis, I can really find out what I want in life, not just from a business perspective, but also a personal perspective. What I value in the people that I'm around, what I value in the place that I'm in. And I think those are all important questions for everyone to figure out, but especially now in our lives when we're so young, that it's so easy to do it now versus when we have children and families, or if it's not for you, maybe you're settled down in a job where you can't leave. So I just want to give you guys the encouragement that it's never too late to find your passion, and it's never too late to figure out what you value more. And I would love to keep this dialogue going. I definitely want to do a video in the future about what it may look like for you leaving a job if it's not finding another job, or what it may look like for you improving the current environment that you're in right now. So please continue to follow along, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat at My Quarter Life Crisis. Quarter spelled QTR, and I would love to hear from you guys. So please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I go along this journey. I can't wait. I've got so much more in store for you guys, so please stay tuned. And again, I am excited to show you guys and take you guys along. So until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye. Oh, that was awkward. Do I look at the camera or do I look at myself? That's a good question.